What's happening, Bitcoin accumulation country? I'm your host, Coin Icarus. This is the Fun with Bitcoin podcast, sponsored by CryptoCloaks 3D Printing, and we are in season 3, and this is episode 40. I hope everybody's having a great week. This was actually supposed to be a chat with the entire Lightning Node roundtable, but we can't always get everybody together. Have no fear. We sat down with Suheb, who is kind of the lead, the head of RideTheLightning project, right? Which gets incorporated into more and more of these Lightning nodes. And so we got to sit down and have a nice chat about the development of RTL and the different features and different requests. Anyways, it was a great chat, and we're going to get right to it. But before we do, it's time to talk dollar cost averaging and Swan Bitcoin. For anybody who is interested in dollar cost averaging and who wants to be purchasing Bitcoin but doesn't want to be spending their time constantly watching the charts and listening to traders that they really have no idea whether these people are credible or not, and you kind of just want to put this in a passive sleep mode where you're simply just accumulating and hodling, being able to transfer that Bitcoin out to your own private address. So if you're interested in doing that and that falls in your wheelhouse, then you are looking for Swan Bitcoin. With Swan Bitcoin, the three main takeaways are we can do automatic withdrawal from a bank account, automatic purchases of BTC. You can time them based on your when you receive your check. You can do it let's say once you can do it once a month, or you can do it per pay period as well. There's lots of options for you to be able to customize how you purchase. And you could automatically withdraw to your chosen address. So if you're interested in a Bitcoin-only platform that is doing the great work of helping onboard people, then you definitely want to check out Swan Bitcoin. I'm going to have the link to their website in the show notes. Without further ado, here is my chat with Suheb from RideTheLightning. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me on the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. I actually have Suheb from RideTheLightning, who's actually been on the Lightning Node roundtables every single time before, but we're going to kind of do a bit of a one-on-one this time. So, and we're just going to really dig into to RideTheLightning. And for people who don't know what RideTheLightning is, I'm sure my description is not going to be as good or as thorough as Suheb's is, but essentially it's a management interface on your Lightning node. And when I first learned about this project, it was on the Raspberry Blitz, and at this point, it seems like it's installed on so many different nodes. So it's really cool. Suheb, thank you so much for for coming on the podcast and talking with me about RideTheLightning, man.
Sure. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Cool.
So
let's
RideTheLightning. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. So let's dig in. I guess let's start right away with what's new in RideTheLightning. I've been using it on the MyNode interface recently, and I totally love the look. I love the look and feel. You've really improved.
Yeah. So in terms of what the product is, essentially, right? RideTheLightning is essentially, like you said, is a node management browser-based UI. It's the persona or the user that we had in mind was a technical user of Lightning nodes, and that's why if you go to the interface, it has a lot of options. We try to provide as much flexibility as you can, as we could on the UI for all the Lightning node operations. Channel management, detailed channel management, viewing your balances, adjusting your balances, then payments, receiving invoices, sending payments, and try to give slightly different flavors of UI. If there is a merchant node operator persona, so the dashboard that they have they can tweak the way the information that they want to see on the dashboard. So there are two different flavors of the dashboard as well. So you can go to the settings and tweak those settings to have a different type of dashboard where the information is more relevant from a merchant perspective. So pretty detailed. The objective was to give a detailed user interface for a technical user and try to dig into as many features of Lightning as we could keeping a typical technical user in mind. That's the basic, the description of the interface. It's a node management UI.
And I really like. I haven't started using it yet, but I noticed that you have the loop, the looping function, and
Yeah,
so okay. For the people that don't understand that, can you just explain what that is? Is that about balancing the channels?
sure. So basically, loop is a flavor of a submarine swap, right? And a submarine swap is actually a swap between off-chain and on-chain funds, right? So basically, if you are on Lightning, your funds are logged into off-chain channels, right? And if you want to have an ability to kind of swap your funds across, from off-chain back to on-chain or from on-chain back to off-chain, so submarine swaps are a mechanism to do that, basically. So one of the flavors of this service, submarine swap, is actually open source, so anybody can actually develop their version of submarine swaps if they want. So Loop is one implementation of that, and there are other implementations which are actually now coming on in the market as well, like Bolts. Which offer essentially similar type of service. The idea is, if you're a merchant, let's say, right, and you are receiving a lot of Lightning funds, and you don't have, let's say, your vendors that you want to pay to through Lightning, and let's say your vendors are accepting Bitcoin payments on chain. So you have a way to swap your off chain funds that you have received on your site back to on chain, and then pay your vendors, for instance, right? Or so basically, it's a mechanism to kind of go back and forth between on chain and off chain.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so it doesn't have to do with balancing the channels
There is a way
because
you
I
can use that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm asking. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you can actually use that to adjust and play with your balances. So, for instance,
Okay.
loop out, which is a reverse submarine swap, is basically, you've got your funds on the on your side, which is the income local balance side, and you want to send those funds out to your on-chain funds. So the mechanism is such that you send the payment out to a loop server, right, on Lightning,
Mm-hmm.
and loop server swaps back those funds back to you on chain, right? So what it accomplishes two things for you. One is it gives you on-chain equivalent funds for your off-chain funds, and what it does, it pushes balance to the remote side. So your channel balance gets adjusted because the balance has now moved to the remote side. So it serves both the purposes. You
Oh,
have more balance on the remote side, and you've got equivalent on-chain funds back on your on-chain wallet. So that's why it is kind of called a loop.
that that's very helpful
Yeah.
because before we had no mechanism to do this, or not an easy mechanism to do this. So this is definitely nice. So
Yeah, and I expect submarine swaps to actually become more competitive. I expect more people to come into the space and provide submarine swap services, because you can actually think of those submarine swaps as kind of an exchange, right? So, a good analogy to think about it is when Bitcoin initially started. The way to bridge from fiat world to Bitcoin world is exchanges, right? Fiat
mm-hmm.
exchanges, right? Which are offering you on ramp and off ramp services. Uh, what I think is similar type of evolution will happen in the Bitcoin circular economy, where the initial adoption will be more on the on-chain side, and Lightning adoption will mature over a period of time. So you will see a lot of submarine swap services which will try to bridge this, basically, right? Try to offer a bridge, on ramp and off ramp between on chain and off chain. So basically, so you'll see similar type of evolution. That's my thinking.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you think that like so people could make actually maybe make a living from providing this type of a service?
Yes. So if you look at Loop, for instance, right,
Interesting.
it offers a lot of it provides so it has an incentive to do these swaps. So it charges you a fee to
Mm-hmm.
basically offer this service. So similarly, Bolts is another exchange which is actually offering reverse swap, submarine swap, and submarine swaps, and they are also charging some fee. So it's because they have to keep their funds online, maintain hot wallets. They're taking a lot of risk in like offering these services. So they are doing it for an incentive, and so we'll see over a period of time. I feel that this market will have more competition, and you will see Now, the transition from Bitcoin to fiat to Bitcoin is one phase. Then from on-chain Bitcoin to Lightning adoption is also another phase, right? So when as this transition is happening, these exchanges will pop up and try to offer this on-ramp and off-ramp between on-chain and off-chain, and make money while doing that.
Okay. Very interesting. I didn't really think of it as that kind of big picture, so I appreciate that. Okay, so let's dive into what's coming down the pike for Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, so since the last time we spoke, I think at that time, Ride the Lightning was available for LND and C Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have actually expanded to eclair also. So now RTL works on all the three major Lightning implementations, LND, C Lightning, and eclair. So the look and feel interface is similar. So you have one type of mental model, regardless of which Lightning implementation you are working with. You can have a similar type of way to interact with your Lightning nodes. So that was so eclair, we expanded to eclair. So that was one big change that we did since the last time we spoke.
Very cool. All three of the platforms. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So are there any kind of features that you're working on that people have asked
Yeah.
for? That
Yeah. So if you look at the last release,
Mhm.
version 0.9.0, the most interesting piece that we did on C Lightning specifically was the coin control. So we added
Yes.
coin control on C Lightning, both for on-chain withdrawal, if you're doing from the C Lightning node, as well as if you're opening channels, right? So you can do coin control. So that is actually quite a requested feature rather from Lightning implementations, because it provides you more flexibility and offers you more privacy when you are opening channels or withdrawing funds from your Lightning node to somewhere else. You can have fine-grained control over your UTXO. You can decide which UTXOs you want to use to open channels, etc. So that is one good
Nice.
feature that we've added. But
Yes.
that's available for C Lightning only. LND has to offer those features before we can actually make it available on the UI. And same thing for Eclair. They also have to provide those flexibility at the implementation level so that we can extend that in the UI.
All right, you guys heard it. Add it so that he can add it because we want to use it.
Yes.
I really like coin control. The first time I ever experienced that, I was like, wait a second, I can actually choose, which UTXOs I spend from.
Yeah.
Like individual. I had never experienced that before, and that was very nice. So
Yeah. There are certain usability improvements that have to be made on that. So, for instance, labeling of UTXOs is still
mm,
not there in C Lightning. So, we need that ability to read labels.
yeah,
If that is there, it'll make it more usable. Right now, you'll have to remember the amounts, which UTXO was which, like that does not give you great
yes,
experience. So, we can improve that with labeling. So, that is one thing that they can improve. LND actually is doing labeling, but
mm,
the way they are doing coin control is slightly different. Right now, what they're offering is you can lease or mark certain UTXO as leased. And then when you are opening channels, the leased UTXO will not be used for open channels. So it's kind of an inverse way to do coin control. So we have not added that in the UI. Once they have a direct, they are still working on, directly controlling which UTXOs go into channel opening and on-chain withdrawals. So once they do that, then we will add it in the UI basically, so that you have similar type of experience regardless of which Lightning implementation you are working.
okay, okay. So is there any like a kind of because you guys put in these updates, right? But let's say,
Mhm.
when is your next milestone release, so to speak? Like
Yeah.
where you have like a big overhaul. Like, do you have that even planned yet, or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is a more of a voluntary project, right? So it's not a like full-time thing that we are doing. So all of our contributors are all voluntary, giving their free time. So we do try to have some discipline around what features we want to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing actually, which is work in progress, is a bolds integration. So there is a PR already going on where the similar to the loop
Mm-hmm.
swap service, right? There's another swap service that which I referred to earlier is Bolts, right?
Bolts?
So they are working on
Okay,
Bolts.
got it.
So they are working on adding that as a feature on RTL, so that you will have an option of depending on which service you want to use, whether you want to use LND or LND's loop, or you will have an additional option of using bolts to do reverse submarine swap or submarine swap. So that's one PR which is in progress. Another thing that we want to work upon is improving our setup process. So right now, if you install RTL, you have to go and manually tweak config files.
Mm-hmm.
If you use configs like MyNode or Nodal or Raspberry Blitz, then they are resetting that config for you, so you don't have to tweak that. But if you are like doing it yourself, setting up your own node
Mm-hmm.
and running RTL on your own, then you'll have to do a little bit of tweak in the on the config setting. So we are trying to move those tweaks in the UI layer so that you don't have to actually go to the command line at all. Just install RTL, run RTL, and then do everything on the UI. So that's another
Nice.
feature that we want to you build so that the usability improves from a setup perspective. So yeah.
So let me ask you this about bolts, because I really don't know much about it. Is there any benefit of using bolts over loop in loop out, or is it just simply a different way of doing the same thing?
Yeah, it's just a similar type of service,
Mm-hmm.
but another service provider that you can, you'll have an optionality right now. Since it is a for-profit service, right, and you don't really have an option, right? So we wanted to give that optionality to the user, that so that you can choose, which swap service provider you can go to. Right now, there are only two players in the market, so we don't have more options there. But yeah, the idea is to give an option to the user to decide which service they want to go with, right? Boards or loop.
Interesting. Let me ask you this, and I don't even know if there's a demand for this. I just was thinking of it as you were explaining before the
Mm-hmm.
installer. Um, has anybody ever asked you guys for like a standalone type of, let's say, Windows installer, where let's say you would install RTL and then you would
Mm-hmm.
simply configure it, through the setup, you would just configure it to point to a node, and then
Mm-hmm.
it would be like like a standalone interface.
Yeah. So
I'm just
there
wondering.
was, yeah, no. So there is a demand for that definitely, because people don't want to, when we are giving a UI solution and we start off by going to the command line and tweaking, making changes. So that's not a good experience, right? So the idea is to improve it incrementally. So you want to,
Yeah.
from a user end-to-end user perspective, end-to-end user journey and user onboarding,
Hmm.
if you have a UI based setup, that's definitely helpful.
Is there, okay, and maybe you have this in there already, but is there any demand, or have you ever gotten any requests for managing multiple nodes from one RTL UI?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that feature is already there.
Oh, yeah, it is already
That feature
there.
is
Okay.
already, yeah, it's there, and that was actually the first time this was requested was by Ketominer. So Ketominer
Oh,
suggested
yeah.
about maybe 1.5 years back, maybe 2 years back, I think, when we were initially developing it. So at that time, he had an idea that why don't you build us flexibility to manage multiple nodes? And Ketominer is full of great ideas. Like his ideas are the best. So
Yeah.
whatever he suggests, we implement that 6 months later.
See, it just goes to show, man, I'm like 2 years behind him,
Yeah,
asking
yeah,
this,
yeah,
like, so,
yeah,
yeah, definitely shout out to Keto Miner.
yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, at this point, though, I feel like how many different nodes is RTL installed on, right? It's,
So Raspberry Blitz, MyNode, um,
Blitz, Minode.
Nodal. There is another solution called Lux Node. Um, yeah. So and then BTC Pay Server. There are a few more node solution providers which are actually listed on the GitHub. Like we
Oh,
have on the
okay.
first page in the initial section, we have those node providers. So we have quite a few. In fact, one cloud node provider called Block Daemon, they provide cloud-based node solutions. So they also use RTL.
Oh, wow. So you're looking at like six or seven different node implementations,
Yes. Yeah.
that leverage RTL. That is amazing.
And we are a completely volunteer project. We don't like take money from anyone. Just
Not
working
yet.
in. Yeah.
Hey, it's
The idea. Yeah.
you
Go
guys.
ahead.
I think you guys are doing something really, really nice. I like it a
Thanks.
lot. So, and
Yeah.
I've gotten to see it from the beginning. I just haven't gotten to leverage all the features.
Right. So our like objective is more, from a perspective of learning by doing, and that's what we keep on doing. Like whatever new features we add, it offers us learning. Wherever we do new integrations, it offers us, new lessons. For instance, when we integrated with BTC Pay Server, we went through a process of Dockerizing the builds because BTC Pay Server uses Docker images.
Mm-hmm.
Then any new implement. So when we did coin control, we understood how to manage UTXOs, right? So any implementation, any enhancements we do, it improves our knowledge and understanding of both Bitcoin as well as Lightning. So we are so far it's just learning by doing, and hopefully build a solution which anybody can use.
How many people are you on the team? I only met one other person.
Yeah. So the core team is me, Shahana,
Yep.
and Diogo.
Mm-hmm.
Diogo helps us with the UX. So the current UX is his brainchild. He has been, kind enough to and generous enough with his time. This is not a easy project because we cannot offer anybody any money. So, and we have a lot of work, right? So if you look at the
Yes.
interfaces, even from a UX perspective, there's so much work, right? Look at all the screens, all the, there's so many mock-ups that he has to build and deliver. So, shout out to him for doing it and helping us out here and helping the community overall with this his design work.
No, I mean, come on, 3 people team. You guys, I've said this before of other, Bitcoin projects, such as the Raspberry Blitz, but I work for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and that has, we're talking, like over 100, let's say 150 engineers working on a software project at one time,
Right,
and they don't put
right,
together something as stable as you guys do. So,
right. Yeah. I can understand definitely what you're talking about. I also in my day job I also work for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at the same time, it makes me very confident about Bitcoin. It makes me very confident about Lightning, and it makes me, obviously confident about you guys, with what you're doing. So thank you very much
yeah.
for doing it.
Thanks. From a development perspective, also, if you
Hmm.
look at it, all the coding is done by Shahana. Just one person writing 99% of the code. Very little PRs we get in terms of actual change. On the Bolt side right now, they're actually doing a lot of work. So the Bolt's team is like doing a lot of development work. We are just providing them guidance. But other than that, most of the development work is done by Shahana. So it's one person writing all this code for 3 implementations. Understanding all of their APIs, and then doing all the engineering work, which is so far stable, is also impressive. And like I don't do any coding work really, except for one small interface layer that I've written for C Lightning.
Hmm.
So one person writing all the code is also like
So
pretty impressive.
huge shout out,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
it's Shahana.
Yeah,
Okay,
Shahana. Yeah,
so
yeah.
shout out. Um, when do you expect the Bolt stuff to come in?
Yeah.
And
So far, yeah, we don't have a timeline per se. They are like actively working on it. We have given them like engineering guidance. Shana has given them engineering guidance on what we need to do. I have provided them product guidance. We are also working with Diogo to give them some design guidance. So they have a lot of inputs from us. Now basically they are going through the coding work, engineering work to get the whole thing together. Once their part is done, then we'll start looking at testing it out, fixing whatever little bugs are there, and then it should be good to go. I cannot put a timeline right now because again, we are all like nobody's time bound in this on this project. We just work whenever we have availability and
mhm.
free time. But yeah, that's the next thing which will definitely come. Bolts integration is a good feature that we are waiting for.
Very cool, very cool. So, look, I mean, because you and I have chatted so many different times, about
Yeah.
this stuff, I really have no other questions for you. about this. I'm just super excited for, every time there's another update, from you and your team. I'm always excited and happy to install it. So
Sure.
I really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yeah, from a L&D perspective, there are a
Yeah.
lot of API changes. So basically, if you look at, leave on the API side, let's talk about a little bit on the Faraday. I don't know whether you saw the Faraday release. That's also a very interesting, solution which L&D has put together, and that actually offers, node operators accounting capabilities. So, for instance, if you're running a node, right, and you are routing transactions, right now it's very difficult for you to get an overall bird's eye view to understand how much revenue I have made, right, how many, what is
Yeah.
the, so if you look at your operating expense, when you open channel it's an expense, right, when you close channel it is an expense depending on who's closing it and who's opened it,
Hmm.
and then when you route over those channels, you make revenue, right? So basically, putting this picture together, tracking it all down, and giving an accounting view is very important for routing node operators. So Faraday is one attempt in that direction, which is actually commendable and very good, where you can look at channel level profitability, you can look at node level profitability, you can come out with your profit and loss statements. You can say that over this period of time, I have expensed this much, I have
Hmm.
made this much money, and this is my income from my routing node. So you can construct that type of view, and then you can construct channel level profitability views. Is which are my profitable channels, right? So those are very interesting developments, which we have potential to add in RTL and give a complete holistic perspective, so that node operators have a very good understanding of how their investments are working, basically.
I think that would be huge. I wasn't aware of that, so I really appreciate you explaining that. Or maybe I had heard about it, but I mean, wow, that sounds
Yeah,
really cool. And that's called the Faraday
yeah,
implementation.
Faraday.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah. So L&D now has, if you're running L&D,
yeah.
Loop is one daemon that you run for submarine swap service. So similarly, Faraday is another daemon that you can run for profitability analysis and accounting services. So it comes as a separate daemon basically that you run, and it has its own command line interface, an API interface. So which we are now thinking of utilizing that API interface to bring this into the UI.
This is going to be, I think that's huge, because that was one thing that I found very difficult, like especially when I first got my casa 1.
Mhm.
Essentially what I would do is, because I couldn't really calculate, um, I couldn't really calculate how much was in my lightning channels at any given
Yeah,
time. So what I was doing was that every single day I would add to a spreadsheet all my numbers. So
yeah,
that way I could figure out, like, you know, am I actually routing any payments, and am I
right.
getting paid for this, or so
Yeah,
it was very interesting. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
really appreciate that. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. So if you look at the current UI, RTL UI, you will see that on the dashboard itself, you can see what is the channel balances.
Yep.
If you are earning any routing fees, what are the routing fees? We are actually improving some reporting, also trying to add some reporting so that
Hmm.
you'll have a fee history. So basically, if you go to the fee history screen, you'll see month by month, you'll see how much routing revenue you are making. Each month you'll be able to go back and forth in month and
Oh,
see over the month what is the reporting that you have made.
that
That
is
you
awesome.
also, yeah, that's a good feature that we are planning to add. Another feature that we are planning to add is your the payments that you are making, the invoices or the money that you're receiving on your node. So the similar type of reporting interface, you'll get a bar chart where you'll see these many payments I have made and these much payments I have received on my node. So these are good usability enhancement that we are planning to do.
I like that a lot, and I think because I remember talking to you about this probably like 8 months ago or something, asking about a reporting suite, and I
Yeah,
know that this is something like, it's like right now everybody, a lot of people are just focused on actually using the tech, but looking out,
hmm,
by bringing these types of features in, I think it kind of helps solidify the business case.
yeah,
It starts to bring like a how could we say this? Like, it starts to bring substance to the
yeah.
business case of Lightning, and and essentially how you can make that into a into a stream of income.
Yeah. Makes it
So
more tangible, easy to
very
understand.
interesting.
Yeah, easy to understand. Obviously behind all this tech which we are working on, what is the real world benefit, right? So if you
Yes.
can abstract that out, it becomes much more relatable, basically. Right?
Oh yeah.
Actually, on the accounting side, if you have listened to one of the interviews which Lisa from Sea Lightning did, they're also actually working on it. So they're also working on creating accounting APIs so that they can give an accounting view for Sea Lightning. So it's both L&D and Sea Lightning are actively working on providing accounting type views, which I feel is immensely valuable, especially for routing node operators.
Oh, absolutely. I think that we can't take ourselves, it we can't take ourselves seriously until we offer these, these types of services, because really at the end of the day, if Bitcoin expects to be money,
Yeah,
this is the type of stuff that has to grow around it, and as we could see,
right,
it's simply growing naturally. So,
right. Yeah. And if you look at Lightning Network's ecosystem overall, right? If you look at the ecosystem, there will be three players primarily, or three types of network players. So one will be your user who's trying to make payments, right,
mhm.
or receive payments. Another will be your vendor who's trying to accept Lightning payments, and third will be the routing node operator, which is making sure that the payers and the receivers are connecting and are able to reliably make payments. So the I feel that routing node operators at this point largely ignored. We don't have a lot of solutions. We have a lot of solutions for wallets. BTC Pay Service addressing the merchants, but we don't have good solutions for routing node operators. And I feel that they are one of the most critical piece of the puzzle overall to
Mhm.
make sure that this whole ecosystem works. So these developments, Faraday, Sea Lightning's accounting work, is actually a good step in that direction to enable routing node operators.
I agree, and I like that you're focusing on the Lightning node operators,
Yeah,
because especially at this stage in the game, it's a lot of us that want to learn to be Lightning node operators.
yeah, yeah,
Because we have the liquidity to put on the network, and we have the
yeah.
desire to do so. So
Right.
this is
That's why these tools are important. Yeah.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
if you get the back end working properly, then the front end is much easier to manage. you
Yeah.
know
That's right. Yeah.
so
That's right.
I like it, man. I like it.
Cool. Cool.
So look, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I think we've covered quite well the recent development, what all we wanted to do on RTL as well. So I think we are at a good point at this point.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look, I obviously I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and it's always a
Thanks.
pleasure to have you on. And I look forward to the next Lightning Node roundtable with you on it, and we could talk about more updates.
Sure. I'm looking forward to. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Suheb.
Thank you. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. Hope you guys enjoyed my chat with Suheb. I really love what Ride the Lightning is doing, and I love the vision that they have. So, anyways, his contact details will be in the show notes. And of course, if you want to reach me, Telegram or Twitter, I am at CoinIcarus. If you want to shoot me an email, I am coinicarus@funwithbitcoin.com. Catch you all next time. Thank you for listening.